Hello students, welcome to my channel. Today I am here to teach you Cbse Class 8 Chapter 1, and in my previous videos, that is part 1 and part 2, we have studied about what are the measures which farmers have to take to get a good crop production, and today we'll continue with those points. So let us begin with it. Harvesting is one of the important step which farmer has to follow for a good crop production. Harvesting of a crop is an important task. The cutting of crop after it is mature is called harvesting. What is harvesting? Harvesting is nothing but cutting of the crops after it get mature or which is ready to give us the yield. In harvesting, crops are pulled or cut close to the ground. It usually takes 3 to 4 months for a cereal crop to mature. Harvesting in our country is either done manually by sickle. Sickle, you can see a image, that is figure 1.7. By using that, a crop is cut close to the ground. This is by manual or by a machine called harvester. So here you can see in figure 1.8, a harvester is used, that is the crop is cut close to the ground and the crop is removed by it, or by a machine, that is by machine called as harvester. In the harvested crop, the grain seed needs to be separated. So now when after harvesting, the leaves, the stem, or everything of the plant will be present. So now you have to separate them. So separate that is the leaf, stem separate and the grain separate from the chaff. This process is called as threshing. So when this threshing is done, so you are separating the leaves and the stem and other grain part. So this is carried out with the help of a machine called combine. So you can see here, sorry, I was like I am not able to show you the machine called harvester, but here you can see the combine. It is similar to that of harvester. So in the combine there is a machine which separates the. So here this combine is nothing but it is harvesting the crop, that is cutting the crop from the ground, and both threshing, okay, that means it is separating the stem and leaves and the grains. Both are done in the same machine. After harvesting, sometimes stubs are left in the field which are burned by the farmer. Paheli is worried. She knows that it causes pollution. It may also catch fire and damage the crops lying in the field. Farmers with the small holdings of the land do the separation of grains and chaff by winnowing. You have already studied this in the class 6. So in your class 6 you have studied about winnowing, but still you can see a winnowing machine here in which farmers do small holdings of land for the separation of grain and the chaff. Okay, here sometimes after the harvesting some stubs will be left over in the field, so these will be burnt by the farmers. Harvest festivals. After 3 or 4 months of hard work, there comes the day of harvest. The sight of golden fields of standing crop laden with grains fills the heart of farmers with joy and sense of well-being. The efforts of the past season have borne fruit, and it is time to relax and enjoy a little. The period of harvest is thus a great joy of happiness in all parts of India. Men and women celebrate it with great enthusiasm. Special festivals associated with the harvest seasons are Pongal, Baisakhi, Holi, Diwali, Nabanya and Bihu. So after harvesting, so there are harvest festivals celebrated by the farmers. So once the farmers see the fruits in the crops, the grains grown, they after seeing them, they want to celebrate them, and they want to celebrate their hard work that has come into a fruit. So there are some special festivals associated with this harvest season. So these festivals might be celebrated as Pongal, Baisakhi, Holi, Diwali, Nabanya and Bihu. So all these are the festivals celebrated. So next step which farmer has to do after harvesting the grains, now he have to store them. Storage of produce is an important task. So if you don't store them, then your rats might eat up, or some insects might grow inside and damage your grains. If the harvested grains are to be kept for the longer time, they should be safe from moisture, insect, rats and microorganisms. Harvested grains have more moisture. If freshly harvested grains are stored without drying, they may get spoiled or attacked by organisms, making them unfit for use or for germination. Hence, before storing them, the grains are properly dried in the sun to reduce the moisture in them. This prevents the attack by insect pests, bacteria and fungi. So after harvesting, immediately we can't put them in the bags and store them. So it is very important, as they contain the moisture in them. We have to dry them in the sunlight so that they get dried up, and the chance of growth of microorganism, bacteria and fungi will reduce. So hence, drying up before storing them is very important. Farmers store grains in jute bags or metallic bins. However, large-scale storage of grain is done in silos and granaries to protect them from pests like rats and insects. So you can see here how there is the storage of the grains is done in the gunny bags in the granaries, and silos for the storage of grains. So to protect from insects and the rats, this storage is done. And dried neem leaves are used for storing food grains at home. For storing large quantity of grains in big godowns, specific chemical treatments are required to protect them from pests and microorganisms. If you are preserving only some amount of grains, you can add some dried neem leaves in it so that it avoids the pest attack in it. And if it is stored in godowns or any big storage of grains is required, chemical treatments are done to protect them from pests and microorganisms. So food from animals. So this was all we have studied about food from plants. We get how we have to store them, harvest them, how we have to irrigate them, all the steps, so which farmer have to follow. So now we also get food from animals. So that we have studied about animal sources, right? So let us see. Make the following table in your notebook and complete it. So milk. So food you write it down and sources you write down. Milk we get from cow, buffalo, she goat, she camel. Yes, we get the milk. Milk is also an animal source. So let us come right next. Chicken you get from chicken. Then meat from goat. And next you come for cheese and your milk products. So you get from cow, buffalo, she goat and she camel. So after completing this table, you must have seen that like plants, animals also provide us with different kind of food, as we saw meat, chicken, milk products. So all these are food sources we get from animals. Many people living in the coastal areas consume fish as a major part of their diet. In the previous class, you have learnt about the food that we obtain from plants. We have just seen that the process of crop production involves a number of steps like selection of seeds, sowing, etc. Similarly, animals reared at home or in farm have to be provided with proper food, shelter and care. When this is done on a large scale, it is called as animal husbandry. So we have seen here, when the plant have to grow or we have to get a good crop yield, farmer has to do so many things. Similarly, when these animals are reared, so or grow for our benefit, that is to get chicken, milk or milk products. So some steps have to be taken, like giving them proper food and shelter and giving them proper care. So when this is done in very large scale, just like crops in the field, so this is called as animal husbandry. So keep in your mind about these things. So these are some keywords which we have studied in the chapter agricultural practices. So agricultural practices, we have studied about how farmer does so many practices to get good crop yield, like sowing of the seeds and tilling. All these are nothing but the agricultural practices. So animal husbandry, as just told before in the class, this was like rearing of the animals in the large scale is called as animal husbandry. Crop in the sense, we have seen many plants grown in the huge amount. Fertilizers we have studied, like those having nutrients, which are chemical substances having nutrients in them added to the soil. Granaries, in which more amount of grains are stored. Harvesting, taking the crop and separating them from leaf stem and the grains. Irrigation, giving water to the plants. And next word is kharif. Kharif is a type of a crop which is grown in the season. Rabi and kharif are different crops grown in rainy season, that is from June to September and in October to March. So manure is an organic thing which add nutrients to the soil. Plow is one of our agricultural practices which we saw. Seeds, silo is nothing but a type of material or tunnels where seeds are being stored after harvesting. Sowing is nothing but putting the seeds in the soil. Storage is like storing the harvested grains. Threshing is separating stem and leaves from the grains. Weeds are nothing but the unnecessary or the unwanted plants growing along with the crops. Weedicide is nothing but the chemical which is sprayed on the weeds to avoid the growth of them or to kill them. Winnowing, as we studied that is, as I showed you in the figure, this is winnowing machine. So farmers with small holdings of land do the separation of grains in chaff. Manually, this is done with small machines. So if combine is used, that is a big machine where there is separation of trash and threshing is done. So this is about some summary thing that we have studied in this chapter. So in order to provide food, so there are some points which we will be discussing today, that is like what we have studied in this chapter. In order to provide food to our outgrowing population, we need to adopt certain agricultural practices. So if all these agricultural practices are being followed, proper crop production will be done. Same kind of plants cultivated at the place constitute a crop. So if same kind of plants are produced in the same place, huge amount, then that is called as a crop. In India, crops can be broadly categorized into two types based on the season, as we have studied. Rabi and kharif crop. We have studied about Rabi and kharif crops. So these are the two types of crops which is done depending on the seasons, categorized depending on the seasons. It is necessary to prepare soil by tilling and leveling. Plows and levelers are used for this purpose. Tilling, as we saw that the soil is turned back. Using plows and levelers, so that the fertilizers which are present inside the soil comes up. Sowing of seeds at appropriate depths, and if some microorganisms are also present, that will be exposed to the sunlight and they die, and that will be ready for sowing. Sowing of seeds at appropriate depths and distance, giving good yield. Good variety of seeds are sown after selection of the healthy seeds. Sowing is done by seed drill. So this selection of the seeds, as we saw some experiment like soaking them in water to separate them as healthy grains and all. Soil needs replenishment and enrichment through the use of, so as we saw, replenishment of soil is very important, or as the nutrients get empty in the soil, filling those nutrients is very important. Supply of water to the crops at appropriate intervals or time to time is called irrigation, as we have studied about irrigation. Weedicide or weeding. Weedicide is the chemical method of removing the weeds. Weeding is the manual method. You have to remove the unwanted and uncultivated plants called weeds. Harvesting is called as cut. So as we saw in this class, harvesting, that is cutting of the plants above the ground to take up the seeds, separate the seeds. Separation of grains from the chaff is called as threshing. That is, chaff is nothing but the stem and the leaf or the dried part which is not necessary, that is chaff. You have to separate them, and this process is called as threshing. So next coming, proper storage of the grains. So proper storage of the grains is very important to protect them from microorganisms and rats. Food is also obtained from animals for which animals are reared. This is called as animal husbandry. As we have studied in your previous classes, animal sources are also there for the food. So rearing of these animals, or proper care, proper food, giving proper food, proper care for these animals at the large scale is called as animal husbandry. So in this class we have studied about 2 steps, that is harvesting and storage, and then next coming we have studied about some key points and about the summary of the chapter. So in my next class, that is in my next video, I'll be solving some worksheet and the exercise of chapter 1. So please stay connected with me, and thank you for watching this video.